Hi, my name is Rishab and I'm a second year student here at Washington University in St. Louis. And I would like to talk to you a little bit about my education, my background, and my experience. I graduated from VIT Vellore as a chemical engineer. VIT Vellore is the second best private university in India, according to a AC Nielsen India Today survey done in 2012. Upon graduation, I had a couple of job offers, one from a multinational company in Chennai and another from a small pharma company. I actually chose the small pharma company because I thought that the exposure that I could get, the learnings that I can have, and the impact that I could have on an organization would be greater at the small pharma company. Hence, I accepted an entrepreneurial position at an emerging business of manufacturing active pharmaceutical ingredients for human and veterinary formulation. Over the course of those 4.5 years, I learned how to manage people, tackle difficult situations, and most importantly, how to focus on finding solutions to complex problems. I started off in a technical role, and my primary or key responsibility was the optimization of various manufacturing processes. Within a couple of years, I took up an initiative of launching a new product in the market. A new product for us was not a novel therapeutic anti-asthma drug or anti-cancer drug, but in fact it was a generic molecule. Since it was a small company, the senior leadership gave me permission to go ahead with this project. After about 6 to 8 months of extensive research in the lab, we came up with a cost-effective process to manufacture the product. As a matter of fact, the successful launch of this product was what got me promoted in about 2 years. The same launch is what got me introduced to marketing and what got me excited about the commercial aspects of a business. Hence, I decided to undergo formal education in the commercial aspects of a business so as to groom me or groom myself into becoming a better leader. Therefore, I applied to B schools and got enrolled at Olin. So let's start with what I've learned over these past 2 years at Olin. Let's start with strategy and how my past experiences links with strategy. So Century Pharmaceuticals, or the pharma company that I was working for, was trying to fulfill the broad needs of a broad market, a strategy which has not yet been proven. After consultation with senior executives, my team and I decided to focus on the profitable needs of a narrow segment, which in our case was antibiotics, and tried to explore synergies therein. We made several trade-offs. We accepted comparative profit margins for an exponential increase in volumes. We outsourced manufacturing wherever there were tangible benefits, and we started recruiting, developing, and retaining smart and talented people. From an even percentage of commodity and niche users, we revamped our portfolio to contain primarily products that were good in quality, which were priced reasonably, which was again a good fit with the volume based trade off that we had made earlier. I was particularly instrumental in eliminating one key false trade off, which had been hampering our success for a very long period of time. We started reinvesting in our own company rather than in mutual funds and index funds of emerging countries or emerging economies, thereby signaling that the investment done in a company, which was perceived at that time as a cost, is not inversely proportional to the profits but may be actually proportional or at least is correlated to the profits of a company. Let's go on to marketing. Marketing. Let me start off with marketing strategy and then we can move on to other aspects. In a classic case of the implementation of the BCG growth model, my team and I started looking out for investors for a capital intensive and relatively less profitable business segment. After explaining our value proposition, we were able to get GVFL or Gujarat Venture Finance Limited on board, and hence we were able to redirect our financial resources from our cash cow, which was the active pharmaceutical ingredient business, to the appropriate question marks and not the dogs, according to the model. When I launched our products in the emerging markets of Africa, my team and I use the traditional concepts of segmentation, targeting, and positioning, leading to greater than expected revenues and profits. We effectively moved away from mass production and adopted mass customization and one to one marketing, wherein we work with the clients to better understand their needs as compared to our competitors so as to create a switching cost for our clients whenever an alternate supplier comes in who is cheaper by 0.0001 cents per ton. We also moved from the selling concept and adopted the marketing concept wherein we based our business model more and more on the needs of the customers and refrained from pushing our already existing products onto the market. And finally, in a direct application of the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule, we appropriately directed our resources to those clients who had a greater impact on our bottom line. So, finance. Let's talk about finance. One of the classes that I took recently was options and futures, and let me start with a forward. What's a forward? A forward is actually a contract between two counterparties to sell an underlying asset at a predetermined price at a predetermined future date. So the seller has the underlying asset and he sells it to the buyer on the maturity date. So there is no actual transaction of money at the signing date. Now, there are a couple of key issues with a forward. There is a liquidity risk and there is a credit risk. So there is another type of a financial instrument called a future which takes care of both these types of risk. A future is a standardized contract that is exchange traded and hence there is little or no liquidity risk. Whereas the payment to the seller is guaranteed by a clearinghouse, and a future also uses, or a clearinghouse also uses, a daily mark to market scheme wherein the credit risk is also almost negligible. So now let us look at some of the payoffs for the buyer and the seller. Suppose the price of the forward or the future is F. Therefore, on the maturity date, the buyer pays F, whereas he receives an asset whose value can be denoted by S of T. So his payoff is just S of T minus F. Whereas the payoff for the seller is just the opposite of that of the buyer. He receives F dollars or F units of currency and he lets go of I know the spelling of entrepreneurship, and that in itself is quite an achievement. Moving on to the soft skills, I would like to highlight three key strengths of mine through various examples. The first being dedication. And I would like to give you an example of a time when I showed dedication at Century Pharmaceuticals. After about a year, the top management was discussing about a 5 metric ton per month contract with a multinational company. The challenge was going to be our capacity. We had a capacity of 3.5 metric tons per month. On getting an intimation from the marketing department, I called a meeting of the factory staff and motivated them to accept the challenge. Initially, we increased the batch size slowly. Then we cut down on the process time. Together, we were able to increase our capacity from 3.5 metric tons per month to 4 metric tons per month. But we were still not able to reach the 5 metric tons per month target. Next, I suggested that we outsource a part of this process to a nearby facility. This suggestion actually worked well, and we were able to reach our target of 5 metric tons per month. So, what was the result? The result was that the top management got the order and the production team got the reward. The second skill that I want to highlight is innovation. After working 2 years at the plant, I had a feeling that the company had been working on the same products for a very long period of time. The company had tried but had failed to introduce a product that was innovative, lucrative, yet sustainable. I started doing preliminary market research by talking to clients, customers, suppliers, and experts about where the Indian generic pharmaceutical industry was heading. I found out that it was moving from the previous generation of antibiotics to the newer generation, i.e., from erythromycin based derivatives to azithromycin. Although it was outside the scope of my work, I started doing research on this new molecule, and after about 6 months of extensive research, we came up with a cost effective process to manufacture it. The next step was going to be the mass production of this molecule at the plant or the factory level. Our first such attempt to do so led to disastrous results with lower than expected yield and quality. The company in the past had given up on such initiatives when faced with problems, but I did not want to give up, and I went back to the lab to re-optimize the process. And on the fourth or the fifth trial, we were able to successfully manufacture the product. So what was the result? The result was that today, azithromycin is one of the best-selling molecules of Century Pharmaceuticals. Third, dealing with people. In everyday life, I think this is one of the most important skills to have as a manager. There was a particular time when we had a supply chain issue at Century Pharmaceuticals. We were sourcing or we were purchasing oxytetracycline hydrochloride, which was one of our key raw materials, from a company named Shifang for the past 10 years. We were happy with the quality and price. Now, Shifang was a government owned company which now changed hands to a private company. Under the new leadership, they increased the price of the product by 20%, saying that it was no longer viable to supply at the contracted price. I asked permission from my senior leadership to tackle this issue. I immediately found out new suppliers who could replace our existing supplier and asked them for samples to analyze their quality. Then I created a mathematical model based on quality, price, capacity, and attitude of top management. And then my senior leadership put weights on each of these verticals on the basis of the industry and basis of the product in general. And finally, we made a recommendation for He by Sanctuary. He by Sanctuary could not initially support us with the required quality. They were higher on all other parameters. I cajoled the management of He by Sanctuary to improve their quality for a quantity requirement of 1 container per month. This quantity appeared to be attractive to them and they agreed to support me. The quality of their shipments were multifold and more than met the requirements. So, what was the result? The result was, at a time when we had a supplier crisis, we found out a new supplier who was much more cost effective, and in the process, we were still able to deliver our goods to our customers within the stipulated period of time. And a big thank you to all those who have watched this video, and I hope you found it pretty good. Thank you again, and hope to see you in person.